call our October school board meeting to order. Would there be a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Second, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we're ready, I believe, for presentations from our financial.
You're up.
I was told 10 minutes.
We move fast.
Do you want to wait longer?
No. Thank you for letting me be here this evening, go over the financial statement for the year ended June 30th, 2024. Behind the cover letter, there is a loose letter. You were on the board last year with BBB. We had two separate letters. House Brown, they combined this into one letter. So this is a communication with those charged with governance and the communication deficiencies all in one. So again, if there was anything that would not be in the audit report that we felt merited your attention in writing, it would go in this letter. Like if there were difficulties encountered in performing the audit, if there's disagreements between us and management on how to handle accounting policy, things of that nature. We're not aware of anything of that nature. And like years past, we do always have the lack of segregation of duties due to the small number of employees involved in the bookkeeping function. This is my annual reminder to the board. This is why you guys do what you do at these monthly meetings as far as reviewing the reports, going over the bills to help mitigate that lack of segregation of duties. Okay. All right, if you'll turn to page 1 of the audit report, this is our opinion for the year ended June 30th, 2024. As you can see right there at the beginning, we've got a bold, adverse, and unmodified opinion. We first have to issue an adverse opinion on the financial statements not being prepared in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. It's basically wording out there to let the users of the financial statement know that it's not prepared in conformity with GAAP, but it is prepared on another basis of accounting that the state of Kansas does allow you guys to use. But there would be material differences between GAAP and the regulatory basis of accounting. The main ones being depreciable assets, things like that, accounts receivable, just things like that, okay? But we do then the third paragraph, the unmodified opinion. In our opinion, the financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balances of the district as of June 30th, 2024. So this is an unmodified opinion, basically the cleanest opinion we can give on the financial statement. Okay. The rest of it's just kind of the wording that's required by our standards. So we'll kind of skip over that and go to page 4. So this is the basic financial statement. This kind of gives you a broad overview of the financial activity for the year. It gives you beginning unencumbered cash balance, year-to-date receipts, year-to-date expenditures, any unencumbered cash balances, encumbrances and accounts payables, and any cash balance by fund and for the total reporting entity. One of the main caveats of the regulatory basis accounting is the cash basis law that states that all funds must end the year with either a zero or positive cash balance. So we'd be looking at that ending unencumbered cash balance. So by law, these funds must end the year with either a zero or positive cash balance, unless it meets one of the exceptions allowed by statutes, mainly dealing with like your federal and state funds, where you have to spend the money first before you get the reimbursement. So as long as we're not in the red by what we've got available to draw down, it's not a violation of the cash basis law. So if you're looking at that test the state grant fund, it has a negative cash balance, but we do have those funds available. They just weren't drawn down by June 30th. So it's not a violation of the cash basis law. Okay. All right, any questions on that? Starting on page 5 are the notes to the financial statement. Again, note 1 is our summary of significant accounting policies. It kind of describes USD 303, how it was established, that the financial statements only includes the information of the school district and does not include any of each related municipal entities, which would be the Recreation Commission. Okay. Page 6 is going over the budgetary information, kind of the deadlines for when the budget, the various budget process, unless you're going to see the R&R, which I believe you guys did do for this fiscal year. Page 7, note 3, deposits and investments. So as a municipality of the state of Kansas, By law, your funds must always be covered by either FDIC insurance or pledged security. So this is just kind of going over different types of investments the district can have, what kind of banks they can be held at. And then of your bank balance of a little over 1.4 million as of June 30th, 250,000 was covered by FDIC insurance. The remainder was covered by pledged security issued in the district's name. Okay, just a couple more notes we're going to look at. The first one starts on page 9. And this goes over the defined benefit pension plan, or CAPERS, which you guys are a member of. The only thing I'd like to point out is on the top of page 10 under the net pension liability. So every year CAPERS has their own annual audit performed, and they compute their net pension liability as of June 30th. In this case, it had been June 30th, 2023. Okay. Then they allocate that net pension liability to all the various entities within CAPERS. So your guys' share of that net pension liability reported by CAPERS was a little over $2.6 million. I always like to point that out because that's not money that you guys have to have set aside, earmarked for that potential liability. As a school district, currently the state of Kansas pays in on behalf for the employers. So the school district would be responsible for that. As we start getting those tier 1 and tier 2 members off of there, once they're gone, we're just down to tier 3 members. That net pension liability will start coming down because we'll go from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan at that point. Okay. All right, and the only other one is on page 12. So this is the information on all the long-term debt of the district as of June 30th, 2024. We have the HVAC system and the postage system. Now, normally we wouldn't show the postage system like this, but there was a change in the lease recognition rules. So anything that you're leasing that's longer than a year, even if you don't intend to own it at the end of the lease, which you don't normally do with these postage machines, we still have to show it this way now under our new rules. So again, that's just showing what the beginning balance was, any reduction payments, balance at the end of the year, and there at the bottom is the principal and interest requirements for the next 5 years, and then 5-year increments through the date of maturity. Page 13. The other main caveat of the regulatory-based accounting is the budget law. So every year you guys adopt that budget that shows the patrons what you're going to limit your spending to and the funds that are required to be budgeted. So the first column was the adopted budget or the certified budget. And then general fund and supplemental general fund will have the adjustment to comply with legal max. So after you guys have your audited enrollment, this is what you're legally able to spend out of general supplemental general fund. Any adjustment for qualifying budget credits, those would be current year reimbursements that we didn't budget for because we didn't anticipate them or know we were going to have them. So as long as you get the reimbursements and spend it in the same year, it qualifies for a budget credit. It's an increase to your budget authority without having to go through the amended budget process. Okay, so that comes up to our total budget for comparison, and then looking at the expenditures charged for the current year. So looking at the variance over under, we either want to see things with a 0 or in parentheses, meaning expenditures came in under budget. So obviously general supplemental general fund, the way those are currently set up, you spend those down to 0. Now again, there might be less than $1 depending on how Susie rounds on her local effort form, but more likely either general fund budget authority is going to be 0 or cash in the general fund is going to be down to 0. That's just a matter of rounding. Supplemental general fund, if you're getting supplemental state aid, you'd want to spend that down to 0. Otherwise, that'd be state aid dollars you're losing out on. If you don't get supplemental state aid, you're not required to spend out your LOB. But again, it's not, if you don't spend it out, it's not budget authority. You get a carryover to next year because your guy, it's all based off an enrollment. It's not like cities and counties saying if we don't spend it this year, we can carry it over in cash and we'll have that additional spending authority next year. Okay. So obviously we'd want to spend those down to 0, spend as much as we can, transfer them to other funds such as at-risk, special ed, current tech ed to help fund future costs. Okay. All right, starting on page 14 are the individual fund financial statements. So this gives us a little bit more detail to the revenue and expenditures by fund with comparison to the previous year and to the current year budget. So again, looking at the current year budget, comparing those line item by line item, some we might be over, some might be low. But when it comes to the budget law, it looks at the fund in total. So it looks at total expenditures. As you can see, compared to the year before, the general fund, we got a little bit more revenues and we were able to spend out more in our general fund because of an increase in our enrollment and in the increase on the base state aid per pupil. I don't know what your guys' count looks like for this year with the change, obviously. I'm sure they've made you well aware, it going based off the higher of the 2 preceding years. Now it's the higher of the preceding year for the current year. We did get a 2-year average. It was kind of like a one-off just for this year if your enrollment was going down, but again. Okay. So just kind of looking at that between the various, those things may vary between instruction, just depending on the needs of the district, what kind of expenditures we have and what we transfer to other funds, such as at risk and then transfer. So on page 15 is the continuation of the general fund. As you can see, we start off the year with $2 of cash, and by the end of the year, we were down to less than $1 or 0 cash carryover. Okay, supplemental general. Again, we just see an increase in the tax dollars levied for supplemental general. So we did see an increase in the cash carryover, but like I just talked about, that doesn't give you additional spending authority. All it does as a board, it gives you more flexibility when it comes to doing the budget on trying to maintain, keeping that mill rate level if that's what your intention is doing. So if the valuation were to drop, having this kind of cash carryover, you guys would be able to maintain a flat mill rate at least for a year or two, depending on what the valuation does moving forward. Okay. But as you can see, we were still able, we did have a little bit of increased spending authority in LOB compared to the year before. Again, that's going to be based off increased enrollment and or increase in the base state aid per pupil. All right, starting on page 15 are the special purpose funds. So again, these are funds that are mainly funded by either reimbursement or transfers from general and supplemental general fund. So the first one's our preschool aged at-risk program. Okay. Page 18 is the at-risk fund. Again, this is the fund that you'll kind of see superintendents and clerks that kind of changed their view on this one. They're not carrying over as much cash in this fund because of those required transfers that we have to do each year. It kind of handcuffs us if we have that money in there. So it's kind of been a reversal of what we used to be, where we want some cash carryover in this fund. Now we don't want as much cash carryover in this fund because if it's sitting in there, we can only use it for at-risk purposes, and we don't really get that back until the next budget year. Okay. Page 19 would be your bilingual fund. Okay, page 20 is another one of your levy funds. So this is the 8 mills that you levy for capital outlay purposes. So this can be used for building, upkeep, repairs, custodial salaries. You need to charge them there. It looks like you guys currently are able to charge your custodial salaries to either general or supplemental general fund. That's always a good thing if you're able to do that. That way you guys can either use capital outlay for building upgrades, building repairs, maintenance, or to build up cash for significant repairs so that you may not have to potentially look at issuing GO bonds. Okay. So if you'll about continue on to page 21, as you can see, we kind of pretty much ended the year with what we started off the year as far as cash carryover.
How's that rank with other schools?
Well, that's always an interesting question. Every school's a little bit different. Every school's a little bit different. I mean, again, it depends on what your valuation of what the 8 mills brings in. It depends on whether they have to charge the custodial salaries to capital outlay. Currently, if you guys had to start charging your custodial salaries to capital outlay, it probably wouldn't look that great. I mean, you guys have had some significant upkeep over the last several years on your buildings and so forth. So that's kind of hindered into that. So again, I mean, you can kind of look at it. So we spent about $619,000 out of there in the current year, which again, that's significantly higher than the year before because we had some HVAC stuff, or you correct me if I'm wrong, some type of repair. I don't know all the details. So, but if you look at the previous year, our total expenditures was about $313,000. So if you're looking at a cash carryover $269,000, you've got about 9 months of reserves. You cover 9 months of what you normally charge a capital outlay with any additional revenues. That's not bad. You know, year's worth would be great. A couple years, you know, 3-month reserves, probably not so good. But again, that might be because we have to charge a custodial salaries to capital outlay because we just don't have the spending in general, supplemental general, because either we see a decrease in our enrollment over the years, and as a board and a district, you're trying to figure out how to cut costs, what you're going to be kind of looking at that to maybe, but in the meantime, you're kind of using that 8 mils for those custodial salaries, things like that. But I would say you're probably, as far as a cash carryover, you'd probably be below my median average of cash carryover, but you're by far not the lowest. So, okay.
Thank you.
Your driver training fund, again, this is just money that you got sit there for driver training program. Occasionally it'll build up some funds and you'll have a bigger class come through your driver training program. We'll kind of use that up. But again, food service fund. The only stipulation on this fund, this is the only fund that really has a limit on how much you can carry over into the next fiscal year. So currently, under the current school finance law, you can carry up to 3 months of your 3 months average of your expenditure. So 155,000, we'd be looking at just a shade over $50,000 would be the max that we could carry over. So you're not quite at the 3-month average, but you're pretty close to the 3-month average on what you carry over in food service. Okay. We're going to start skipping over some of these other funds. They're just kind of, you know, summer school, special education fund. This is another kind of your bigger funds because this all deals with the co-op. Again, that's that money that flows through the local assessment. As you can see, we ended the year with just a little bit more than what we started off the year. It's not quite a full year's worth of assessment, but it will cover your first 6-month assessments. That's not bad. I mean, you'd like to have maybe a year's worth of assessment if possible, but at least having that first year's assessment covered your cash carryover is pretty good. Okay. Our career and post-secondary education fund. Gifts and grants, again, that's just kind of, you know, any gifts and grants that you come up through the year or throughout the year. You got your Caper Special Retirement Fund. Again, that's just the Caper state aid and flow through payments. Again, you guys have basically no control over this. It goes into your bank account, comes right back out. Okay. But this would basically be showing what the employer paid in on behalf of your employees into the Caper program. Got your contingency reserve fund. So this is money that you basically have for any emergencies that might come up. Anything that you can spend out of general supplemental general fund, you can spend out of contingency. So again, this is kind of like your rainy day fund. Textbook rental. Then we've got our Recreation Commission Employee Benefit Fund. So again, these are the dollars that are levied on your budget. The county collects them, sends them to you, and then they appropriate to the Rec Commission. And then they use it at their discretion. We do have some cash carryover. I'm sure there was a snafu in the mill levy by the county, so we're getting that straightened out. So eventually, what you'd like to see are these funds not to have any cash. There's no reason to have cash carryover because you guys can't use it for anything. It belongs to the Recreation Commission. Okay. Then we've got all our title funds. So we got the Title I, Title II, Title IV. So these are our federal grant programs that you guys do get an annual allocation, and then they can get used for certain things. Then after the title funds, we've got our REAP grants. Then we've got the ESSER 1, the ESSER 3 grants. Thankfully, those ESSER monies are almost spent and done with. A couple other small little grants that you guys got, the Test State Grant Fund, the LEAPS Fund, which was spent out last year, the MHIT Fund grants. And then we get into our agency funds. So these are funds that are either being held at the district or at the various buildings, that these funds do not belong to the district. They belong to the various clubs, organizations, or in this case, employees. So the one new thing that we have this year under the district is the payroll clearing fund. So with the switch to Skyward, these are monies that were held out of the July and August teachers that were set aside then to pay those to the IRS and whatnot when you gave them their checks in July and August. So again, this money does not belong to the district. It belongs to employees that then gets sent to the IRS and various other payroll related type things. Okay, then we've got our classes. The one thing, the class of 2024, we will want to try to make sure that that gets zeroed out by the end of this fiscal year. Again, those graduating classes, we don't want to have any funds left over if possible. Now, again, occasionally there's a little bit left over at the end of the year. If it gets spent out at the first of the next year, that's great, okay? And then on page 45, these are the district activity funds. So again, these are funds being held at the building level, but would technically belong to the district if these activities were no longer needed. And in the same sense, let's say, example, if we're looking at athletics or concessions, if they spent more than they had revenues, the district would be obligated to subsidize that. They would have to write a check out of their general supplemental general fund made out to the activity fund to cover the cost of those. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at the beginning of the year, you guys do write a check to put that they put in their athletics for like officials or whatnot. Again, so you guys do make a payment right at the beginning of the year to kind of cover that. Occasionally, maybe throughout the year, you might have to put a little bit more depending and so forth. But again, so like I said, at the end of the year, if these things were no longer needed, these funds would come back to the district, either going to your general fund, capital outlay, potentially textbook rental, things like that. I know for you guys that have been on the board with BBB, at the end of the audit report, I had some graphs that kind of showed trend analysis over the last 5 years with this transition to AB. Before I put those back into the audit report, I just wanted to get your guys' feelings. Did you like the graphs? Did you like seeing the graphs? So I'll put them in back for next year. If you didn't see any value added from the graphs, I can just leave them out. No big deal. They're not part of the audit report. It was just something that we put in there just to kind of give you some more information to look at, because everything we looked at was either the year under audit or the previous year. Those graphs gave us the year under audit and the previous 4 years, so to kind of see if there was any trends developing one way or the other. So if you like the graphs, I'll get them put back in for next year. If you don't see any value added, we'll just leave them out.
I like graphs.
You like graphs? Okay, okay. I will get them added back in for next year then. I know that's a lot of information and me just talking. Any questions, comments? I know a bunch of you will go home and read through this tonight. If you have any questions or anything, I'm sure Susie and Derek have the answer, but if not, they'll reach out to me and I will respond to any questions you have as soon as I can. Like always, I just like to say thank you to Derek and Susie. They take really good care of us the day we're here, and appreciate your guys' time and attention.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I thought maybe you guys had the baseball game on behind you. You were really paying attention.
No baseball.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good, go ahead and look at consensus items. A few, I'm interested in hearing the lost cylinder story.
Susie's nicer than I am. I told him to take us to court. Susie paid the bill.
So you don't think they were lost cylinders? They were just.
No, I think when we switched companies from Air Gas to Matheson. Matheson's better price, better service. They've just been a lot better to work with. When Air Gas got mad at us, they came up and picked up all the cylinders because we wrecked the cylinders. And I think they miscounted when they picked them up.
So do we have a lease with Air Gas?
Not anymore.
I mean, did
We
we
did.
before?
Yeah, we did.
Because now you can buy the cylinders and just pay for the gas, which works way, way better. Because the lease is just it's just outrageous.
I can't remember,
We
the
lease.
lease through Matheson too, don't we?
Is it like a 10-year lease?
No.
No, it's annual. That could be something we look at. Is,
We
So-
pay for it on a monthly basis.
Were the cylinders out there, or would you say they were possibly stolen during the?
no, I don't. I think air gas miscounted. When the guy came from air gas miscounted.
And how many cylinders you think there was?
Well, we were just short one.
It says 3.
There's
Says
three? I thought it was one.
No, 3.
I think they miscounted.
There should have been 19 on their records, 19, and they only picked up 16.
So you think we had the 19? They didn't get stolen.
I think they were mad at us because we dropped them, and I think they've lost a lot of business. That's my opinion. I have no other. I don't know how, I mean, I guess someone could have walked in there and walked out with a cylinder of acetylene or something if they really wanted to, but
You had acetylene, oxygen, and probably CO2 and something for the wire welder.
mhm.
I think what that mix is. CO2 and what, Jason?
Argon?
Argon, yeah.
What's the meaning on Amazon wish list at $407?
When the teachers put together something for their classroom,
Okay.
like to purchase off of Amazon, they'll send her the wish list, and then it's easier that way.
Third question, on the electric work on the tennis court, was that anything shared with the rec commission or
That was for the camera that we put up.
as for the camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we had to run a plug up for that, the new camera that's up there.
That was for our benefit rather than for the rec commission. Okay. And now print charges with Tri Central, was that the?
So for us to run basically warranty and service on all of our printing machines, what they do is they charge us per copy as that machine runs. And
Okay,
that,
so
and
we
then-
are printing here then?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Basically, it's just service charge, but they do it off of the number of
Copy.
copies made on that machine. We get our toner and those type of things through those fees. And then if they break, they fix them.
And another one. On Jeter lawyer fees, looking over the golf contract. My impression on that was, it's like, wow, that is more than what we spent on running the golf course. Why are we doing that? So,
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we had a solid contract, so I had them write that contract up.
okay.
Instead of trying to come up with something of my own, I wanted to make sure that we were covered and
Okay.
they were covered, so.
And that would be a one-time thing that'll last for
Yeah.
years. then.
Yeah, we'll be able to reuse that contract
Okay.
for any piece of equipment, whether it's the golf course or if we decide to run cross country at the fairgrounds, like like Patrick and I have talked about, or wherever else. That contract's pretty universal. All we gotta do is change names.
So what was the difference between the air gas and the meth? What's the company you said?
Matheson,
And where are they out of? Do they have a local place in town that they deliver bottles to?
I know that Weber Gross or what Wabash now uses them.
At the hospital.
Hospital uses them. They started picking up quite a bit of business in town. Air gas. We ran into problems of them deciding we weren't big enough for them to deliver to. So they didn't want to bring bottles. We ran into some problems there. Matheson was cheaper. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I mean, it wasn't massive, but it was less expensive. I will tell you, we changed more because of customer service than anything.
Seemed to me like their line items are about requisition account, and liability account seem to be new too, that weren't on previous reports.
So the requisition, it's got to do with when staff puts in their purchase orders, which
Okay.
is Skyward. It's a dummy account. It doesn't go anywhere. Instead of giving them the whole list of accounts, which they will never figure out which one it is. So it's a dummy account. And when I get the purchase order, I put the real account in there.
Okay.
I move to approve consensus items. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consensus items. All those in favor, please raise your hand. There we go. Let's go on, Shelby on special ed.
Nothing much. The local contribution funds and how they're gonna be spent and the rate for next year is gonna be talked about tomorrow. I don't really have an update right now on that. Jennifer Foos did let me know that 4 for special education paras did take a para exam and passed to be more highly qualified, and so she was telling them a good job. We had 4 that took it here and they all passed, so that's it.
Very good. No,
I don't have anything.
so we'll move on, Mr. Flax.
All right, let's do this pretty quick, because I don't think I have really a whole lot besides just a few random things. This Wednesday, the 16th, we will be a quarter done of the school year, as the first 9 weeks will officially end at the end of the day on Wednesday. So kind of one of those things, you look at your weekly calendar and like, wow, where to go? But anyway, kind of looking around here, you obviously see lots of assessment data and stuff that we've been tracking as a staff, and I think Mr. Reinhardt's going to spend a little bit of time on his report going through that. One thing we are doing a little bit different with our fast bridge assessments here to junior, senior high this year is we have added another screening window. We're using our fast bridge to really, we kind of revamped what we call our interventions for students that are at need a little bit, at risk a little bit, that need for some couple days of the Eagle Hour, stuff like that. So we are going to kind of do a secondary fall assessment window. We had our initial window at the very beginning of the year, that very first week to 10 days. We did that first assessment in reading and math, and we're going to do a secondary one. Actually, we got started already at the end of last week, but we'll do reading and math here as we turn over this first 9 weeks, because that's how we use to break up our different intervention groups. We use that data like that. So we're going to add another testing or screening window, I should say, on that. Some other type assessments that are occurring tomorrow. We do our annual fall district ACT. This is any juniors and seniors that sign up. This is not the one that the state pays for. That occurs in the spring. This is the fall. We have a pretty good number of kids that have signed up that will be assessing the ACT in-house tomorrow. Later this month on October 30th, we will also do the ACT work keys. That's ACT is one of their newer assessments. They started about 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. We give that to all juniors. All juniors take that. That'll be again October 30th. We're at the time of the year where there's a lot of different type of, I'm going to use the term career expo or showcases and stuff like that are occurring. Like last week, we took 8th graders down to Dodge City Community College, had their little career expo of the programs that they offer. Here's next week or the week after, we're taking all of our juniors and those seniors that have signed up or that will sign up to the ESDAC. It's actually the 29th of October, so 2 weeks from tomorrow. That's really probably the best statewide, and it's just not post-secondary schools. And obviously it does have all of the technical schools, community colleges, four-year schools are all there, but there's also different, you know, I want to use a term like companies that employ a lot of people in the state of Kansas. Some aviation companies out of Wichita, you know, John Deere, different places like that that are, it's a good one for students to go to, but this is all part of, you know, that we put with our students, IPS, their individual plan of study. And like I say, we're at that time of year where a lot of these are occurring. Here in Southwest Kansas, we haven't had a huge, I guess, a huge interest from our students yet, but we keep asking them anyway. But in Western Kansas, we have like Southwest Plains works with some different businesses that do a lot of showcases. You know, I don't know if we'll have any that will go down. Mineola is actually one of the hosts of a healthcare showcase here later on. I'm not sure if we'll have a whole lot of interest or not. Fort Hays State's having a teacher fair here. We'll get a couple kids that will be taken to that next week. This is just a time of year where a lot of those, and I guess it's a time of year because as the fall activity season, sports seasons kind of wind down, there's just that little bit of break before the winter seasons. So I think a lot of these try to put those in during this time. Speaking of change of seasons, our annual Scholars Bowl tournament will be on October 28th, 2 weeks from today. We have the junior high and the high school, again, that's scheduled for, we kick off the season. Our invitationals are always the first one of the year. We just kind of, it's kind of our window or for us to have our tournaments. You know, and I know he kind of highlights a little bit of the, you know, with his audit report about finances and the student count and stuff like that. You know, I just submitted the principal's building report to Mr. Reinhardt and Susie, and I'm sure he'll visit with his SO 66. Is that your number on that one? I think all that. Just, I guess, on the 20th of September, had a head count of 122 of an FTE of 121.2. And a little later in your agenda, I could probably explain to you why that 0.2 is on that. But anyway, so that's about where we were at last year. I honestly look at my pre-BR from last year to tell you exactly if it's the same count. I think we was at 120 last year on the 20th. So we're pretty much break even, I guess, on that. But I don't know, unless you guys have questions for me. We're hosting a lot of stuff coming up. Got league cross country Thursday. Right, I've seen my email or posts there. We host the regional quad. They redid this postseason in volleyball. They redid it in basketball too. Our girls had a nice tournament Saturday. They maintained the 4th seed in our Northwest Kansas quadrant of 13 schools. So we get to host it. The downside is our facility does not meet standards. To host a regional quad, you got to have 2 playing courts under one roof. So we're going to host it up at Trigo to where we can play basically side to side. Because you've got 4 teams, you got 6 matches, everybody plays everybody, top 2 advances to then the bracket play that following Saturday. We just got a slew of stuff we're hosting. We have, you know, cross country Thursday, regional quad the next Tuesday, Scholars Bowl the next Monday.
Good question. Of the top 3 in our region, would all 4 been able to host with 2 courts under?
Quinter can't. I don't know. I haven't been to St. Francis gym. I couldn't tell you what their gym.
I
If they
think
could,
St. Francis could have.
if they could host or not.
I don't know about
Quinter, I
Mankato.
think probably could. They have 2 playing courts under one roof, but they're in 2 rooms. They have 2 gyms, but they're under one roof. So I think they could. Quinter could.
But even out of the 13 teams in our region, probably better than half, depending on what the state actually required it to be. Like if, like Overland, and they would have a main gym, and then their secondary gym is just like Titans secondary gym. If the state would say, yes, you can play volleyball in there, that would probably make some of these varsity coaches not real happy, being in a swimming pool like that. As far as having a gym with side-by-side courts, you've got Kiowa, Dighton, Jetmore, Central Plains.
Like I said, Jetmore plays just one way though. They play their second court in their other gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Now they may have, they have the ability because they have retractable seats. They could, I'm guessing if they have the post holes, I mean, they probably could.
Ellenwood does. St. John can.
Did you say there's 13 schools that are split up in a quad?
Ideally, it's drawn up for 16, but there's only 52
Well, I mean,
playing.
most of them would only have 3 schools and you wouldn't have any side by side going on
Yeah.
anyway.
Where
Well,
they-
and that's the real, that's
Are
what
they
kind of,
dumb in Topeka or something?
yes, 100%. And I will tell you, he probably thought I was chewing on him, and he just got the ire of me a little bit when it came to dealing with Keisha. I was gonna be real upset if Keisha said, well, you can't host, there's absolutely no reason we can't run 4 teams on one court in one afternoon. We can start at 3 o'clock and be done before 10 o'clock. You know, there's no reason we can't do that. If they would have told us, no, you can't host at a different location and made us go to St. Francis, I would have come unglued. But that's the problem is out of our region, 3 of those are 3 teams and 1's 4 with those numbers. That's the way it
Yeah.
plays out. So only one of those 4 regional sites has to have 2 gyms.
If we would have been a 3 seed or 1, 2, or 3 seed, or
Okay.
hosting a
That's why we
6
gotta go
seed, so we'd be
someplace
gonna try.
But I would still argue, we've played 4 schools in one night, volleyball. There's no reason it can't be done, but that
Well, and
is.
that's why I was asking
Yeah.
how many have that with their facilities these days.
I would say somewhere around 50% probably would be my guess. I would have to do some research. Anybody that's built a gym probably in the last 10 years is probably set up that way for sure.
Right, and I guess I wondered more how many has modified their gyms so that they could.
Are the rules the same for D2, 1A?
So 3 through 1A,
D2, 1A's got to come up with
one site that'll host.
a
Have
side that'll
side by
host
side.
side by side. Wow.
And are there very many of that small schools that have?
I
You're
wouldn't
asking me
think so.
really hard questions.
I would think so.
And I would agree
Are
that
there
there's
that many
probably
of
not.
those really small schools like that have side by side capabilities in their gyms?
Quite a few of them. But
Western Plains is in the exact same boat, but I think their coin flip put them in 3rd place, so they get a host at home with just 3 teams. I think they were tied for 3rd, so they had to do a coin flip.
yeah, they had a coin flip between them and Buckland, and they won, so they get a host to try. Buckland's gonna be hosting their quad at Kiowa County in Greensburg. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been to some of these gyms. You know, I couldn't tell you what a Mankato. They're in our region. There's a good chance we may go to Mankato on Saturday. Soon we move on from next Tuesday. We gotta be top 2 out of the 4. You gotta be in that's the postseason is we'll host that regional quad on the 22nd. We gotta finish 1st or 2nd out of the 4-team round robin. And then we go on to the bracket play that Saturday, which most likely will be at Mankato because we're 4 or 5. I mean, I say that it could be an upset. You never know.
Ultimately, I think Keisha makes a rule that is covering 3A, 2A, and through 1A in with that. think in all reality, with the crowd size we pull for volleyball, there's no reason we can't host 4 teams in a single gym. I mean, the year that Reagan Steiwalt was here, her senior year, Sub-State was in Overland. That's 8 teams in one location, and they
Well,
played one
even like
quarter.
our B team junior high, that was 14.
Mhm.
And that started at what, 8 or 9 in the morning? Was done around noon?
It's capable of being done. That needs to be a conversation with Keisha to get that changed for years after this one. And of course, now granted, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. This is the first year we're doing this. I like, you're more likely to get the best 8 teams at state doing it this way. It does present some potential travel issues. Now, I think our region turned out pretty well. You've got Oberlin and Atwood, I think, going to Mankato, which is just straight down 36, so it's not bad. Probably the biggest travel is St. Francis coming all the way down to Trigo to play us.
Central Plains has to go to Tribune.
Tribune.
That'll be a,
So
Or Tuesday
probably,
night trip.
probably pretty equal distances
that's,
between those two.
yeah, there's,
But I think you're going to get the best 8 teams at state this way, which is ultimately probably what needs to happen. But there's gonna be some bugs that need to be fixed on it.
On a different subject, I'm not in there every day, so sometimes when you're there all the time, you don't see it. But that bench by the library, why hasn't that been gotten rid of?
it needs reupholstered, I know. That,
What?
the bench by the library,
Yeah.
it needs recovered, reupholstered.
There's,
So can we just get rid of it? Put
There's
a
a-
chair there?
there's a guy that wants to buy us a new one. I don't know if he spoke to Tom today,
Oh, okay.
and
He wants
Brett
to buy
Anderson
it?
wants to buy us a new one.
I tried to get him to
Oh.
upholster.
No,
it.
he
He
hadn't
wouldn't
talked
do
to
it
me.
for me.
It's
Or
a pretty bad impression. You walk in
needs
the
to be,
door and
it needs to be
go,
tossed.
He wants to get us a new one, so I told him to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely.
He talked to the board president.
I told him to just sneak it in and take the other one out.
No, it needs to be replaced.
So can that be done?
Brent wants to buy one.
We'll put a plaque on it and have Britt pay for it.
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
I think he's gonna pick it up himself.
See what your brains-
That's what he says.
I don't know, he picked
Alright.
up a freezer.
Yeah,
That's what's left over from what was the old Eagle Nest? I guess that's what it was called. Still says that up in the top corner there of the building. That was obviously before me even. That's still left of that.
Yeah, I think it's done.
It's 18 years old, at least.
Any other question? Mr. Reinhardt?
You've got, I did 2 different things. I shared a PDF in the file itself of our local assessment information, but I also shared to your board email a Google Doc with the same exact information on it so that you can look at it a couple different ways. You can zoom in a little bit better with that Google Doc. But that's just our updated, same stuff I share with you at the end of the year. We've got our new fall assessment data like Tom was talking about. It is up. All of our sheets in here are updated. A couple things from that fall assessment piece. So if we kind of look at some longitudinal information, if we look at fall to fall, so we started doing our fast bridge testing in 24. So in 2022, 64% of our kids entered that grade level on or above grade level in reading. In 2024, so our most recent, we're at 68%. So we've moved kids up. We moved 4% of our kids up. In math was much more impressive. In 2022, that number is 56% on or above grade level. 2024, 75% are on or above grade level coming into the school year in that grade. So that's pretty exciting. Teachers will work well or work hard. The in-service and training we've been doing is starting to pay off. If we look at just kindergarten through 3rd grade, so your kids that have the instructional practices we've put in place, the things that we've worked on, they've only seen that. So the kindergartner through third grade in 2022, 62% were on or above grade level coming into the school year. In 2024, 71% were on or above grade level. In math, 68% in 2022, and 80% in math were on or above grade level coming into the school year. So that's exciting. Teachers have been working hard on that. Put a little bit more information out there as we look at the kids that are below grade level coming in the school year in reading. 63% are on IEPs or are considered an ELL student, so a second language student, and 80% of our kids that are below in math are on IEPs or ELLs. And that's not to make an excuse, but it helps us figure out where some of our concerns are and where we need to make some adjustments and work. But it also gives us an idea that some of our kids struggle because they've got things outside of what we may have control over. They come to us with obstacles in their life that make it harder to learn. So it's pretty exciting to see that the work you've done is starting to pay off. The other thing that we've kind of looked at over the last couple of years is that summer slide, the amount of money we put into summer school and effort we put into summer school. So if we look at the kids that attended at least 80% of the summer school days, 57% of those kids showed growth or maintained from spring to fall. So where they scored at the end of the school year last year to where they scored coming into this school year, 57% of those kids showed growth or maintained. And I would say a vast majority of those 43% that didn't show growth showed very, very little drop, which I'll make the assumption that if they didn't have summer school, they would have even dropped more. So the work we're doing in summer school, the things we're doing are starting to pay off. The work your teachers are doing is starting to show some gains. So that's exciting. The other thing along those lines that I will share is we got a letter that I shared with you from Dr. Randy Watson, recognizing us for the work the teachers have done, the students have done. Once again, we are recognized for academically prepared for post-secondary with a STAR Award, our graduation rate with a STAR Award, our post-secondary effectiveness rate with a STAR Award. And then we also received the 2024 Commissioner's Award for the work that we've done. I think it's like maybe 70 school districts out of the 280 in the state of Kansas achieved at that level. So our teachers are doing some good things. They're working hard, moving kids. Outside of that, we've had some very productive in-service days. Our trainer from ICL Eagle in Ladette that we've had out several years now came in, spent 3 days with us, 1 day with our new teachers working on instructional practices and then doing observation and feedback for the last 2 days. I think it was a great opportunity. I heard very positive things from the staff. Not only were they receiving feedback, but we changed it up a little bit, opened up our eyes a little bit. We took teachers with us. So we had a teacher come with Glenn, Tom, and I. We'd observe, we'd talk about what we saw, we'd provide feedback for the teacher we observed, but that other teacher then also got to see what's happening in other classrooms too. We saw a lot of positive things, and I think it was a positive opportunity for our teachers. And that's one thing we're going to plan on continuing doing throughout the year, even when Glenn's not here, is trying to grab our teaching staff and taking them with us to go observe other teachers to get ideas, but then also talk about what we're doing in the classrooms and how we're working to improve. The other thing teachers have been doing, and I know that they don't necessarily like it very much, it's very long and tedious, is our curriculum alignment. Our last 2 full in-service days have been spent on that. We will spend the vast majority of our in-service days working on that, probably not just this year, but next year. That process basically takes us through our state standards. The teachers go through, they compare the state standards with our curriculum resources. They pull out academic vocabulary with that. They get a better idea of what needs to be taught in each class. And we can also then find gaps in our resources. So if we have a standard that we can't find in our current resources, we know it's something we've got to go find someplace else and supplement with. It's not a fun process at all. I don't think you'll find a single teacher that's real excited about it, but I think they understand the importance of it. But it's also a requirement through TISA. We've got to do it. And I want to make sure it's as impactful as we possibly can, so we've got documents going forward showing that, if we have a new teacher come in, we can say, here's what gets taught in this grade level, or here's what gets taught in this content area. All teachers are doing it. We'll have it done for all content areas. At the elementary school, our goal is to get reading and math upgraded, of course, updated. We did that a handful of years ago, put that together. We've changed resources and some of the standards have changed. So we're going through that. I'm hoping we can get science started this year so that we can look at science resources, so we can get more science being taught in the elementary school. And I think our high school science teachers would like new resources also. One concern I have with that, we're always learning as we spend thousands of dollars on resources. I hate to spend money on something that doesn't cover what needs to be covered. So this process will kind of help with that too. Give us an idea of this, what it needs to be taught. So we need to be able to find that in the resources that we're looking at and vetting. So the teachers deserve a pat on the back with all the work they've done with the in-service and training we've done over the last couple of years, and a big pat on the back for the work they're doing this year in that curriculum alignment, because it is not a lot of fun, but it is a necessary evil.
So that the person that came and observed the teachers, that was somebody that was not from anywhere close?
No, yeah, that was the guy from ICLE. He lives in Louisiana.
So
That's the guy that does the.
I heard
that's part of it.
a statement that he observed one of our teachers who is regarded as one of our better teachers from the students that she's taught. And he had a negative review of this teacher. So, I mean, how good is this anyway?
It's excellent. It's excellent. And I would say that
So
I think
it's
I know,
excellent that
I think I know what you're talking.
Recognize one of our better teachers as a negative.
I think that if I know what you're talking about, it's a conversation we can't have an open session. But yes, I think it's excellent.
Assuming we're all three talking about the same thing, I have heard what Jason is referencing as well.
I'm guessing that I know exactly what it is, and yes, I will stick with my guns and say it's excellent. And we can have that conversation, but because we're talking personnel, that needs to be done in exec.
I wouldn't mind. Can we add it to the agenda then? Or
Well,
can we
we've got it
go
exec.
forward?
We
Okay.
have exec.
I would like to know more about that then.
Is there a reason the fence still up out at the golf course? We don't have another event. Is there a reason it's
We do
still there?
Thursday. We host league Thursday.
Thursday, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just saw him out there playing golf. I just wondered why it's still there.
Yeah, we host league Thursday.
Okay.
Any other questions? A report from the board subcommittee?
Yeah, that was a good time, had by all. One concern they had was the crisis team being gone so much, and I think that Finley, Mrs. Finley was there and she explained things and that they were gone because they had certain things they had to get done. But that is a concern if they're gone a lot. And they apparently were gone quite a bit that month. And then there's an item that we need to discuss in executive session that we can't discuss here. And then they thought that the overall mood, was that the right word? Yeah. Is really good, and they've had a really good year so far. Coach K's wife just wanted everyone to know why is that coming up on fundraising? No. Why it was a $300 minimum. And it was because of them being involved. And that was an average, I think, of the years or something she had figured out and what it would cost. And so that's why there was that. And then
lots of talk about concessions and what, I'm not sure of her name. What is her name?
Mara.
Talk about that.
Oh, the one that was at the meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Candy.
Candy. And I feel for her, and she just needs ideas because kids aren't being involved, parents aren't being involved, so she's got the sophomores, they're all playing, so what does she do? And then the parents aren't covering for the ones that are playing, and then, so she brings up the freshmen.
To ask parents that kids are on the court to go work.
But
in the
apparently it used to be
concession
that way, and like one parent would go.
That seems like something that
And they're
really needs to
there.
be looked at, because that doesn't make a lot of sense.
And then the freshmen, she brings them up and they've got the same situation. So she's at a loss. And they don't care, I guess. She'll tell them what their account is and that they won't really have a problem. Okay. So they just. So if anybody has any ideas for her, because I think she's at the point of pretty severe frustration.
I would say Tom is probably past that point
Yeah.
of trying to round up people to do it.
I'll make a comment about concession stand because
Oh, that's the
I
other
came
thing.
to a game and went halftime to get something. Actually stood behind another board member. And we were, I'm gonna say we were 15 to 17 people back. And in my opinion, it wasn't a problem of people working and getting their stuff, but we had to circle around and go to one person who was checking everybody out. Somebody had a credit card that night. I believe the credit card had a hiccup, so that took some time. But we need some kids that can add and take cash.
Well, and it wasn't
walk
just
out.
that. Remember, they talked about, is it possible for them to have two systems, or is it possible for them just to
Well, they said it was about
take
inventory, but
cash
we,
and then worry about the
it's-
inventory later?
it's
or-
terrible to stand there for 15 minutes just to buy a piece of popcorn and pop when you have your cash in your hand.
The other
It's-
thing about that inventory thing is if we have the ability to keep inventory, I feel like we should have some sort of an idea of what it takes for like the homecoming game, for example. Because when you go down there at the very beginning of halftime or right before halftime starts and they're like, no, we're out of that, no, we're out of that, no, we're out of that, no, we're out of that. Well, okay, what do you have? Well, we have some hot pop and we have some popcorn. I don't think people are really impressed with that. And I don't think it makes us look very good as we've invited this other team to come here. And I travel with a little boy that needs supper during that time. And it's pretty disappointing when you go to the concession stand and you can't even procure that. I don't think it makes our school look great either to the opposing team.
So, I don't know if I'm just throwing something out for discussion, but if the kids don't want to do it, I don't know, other organizations that want to raise money, say, yeah, we'll do concessions.
I had a couple parents
don't
reach
know.
out to me that said had they known, they would have possibly been able to do it, or because they were coming to watch somebody else and they would have helped out. So maybe just send an email. Hey, they don't have anybody to do it.
But
or
see, and she said that's not working.
organization.
She's asked
They don't work
parents.
them. Yeah.
She's asked parents, she's asked students, she's at it.
But it was a couple of the parents that came up to me didn't have kids playing and they weren't in like the freshman or sophomore class. So maybe, or like, when Cup Joe or what's that truck?
Oh, cups.
Maybe they would do some, something.
I would say I was under the assumption when we went to that checkout system that it was so that we could take credit cards.
Mhm.
And that, I thought that was a good idea as a board member. I didn't realize that everybody standing there with proper change in cash had to wait to go through one person who's running a computer to check everybody out.
Well, that
It's
hasn't,
a terrible, terrible, slow process.
and that hasn't necessarily changed. I mean, we've always had one person running a cash box. If you've got another adult in there to take that money and give back, I mean, we could do it with the kids too. It's just, it could help, it could not help. It could cause more chaos. I don't know. We could add another system. I think you could add another system for around $300 as far as
Well, like
staying
she
with
said,
it.
there's no way that their inventory, she didn't feel like could be correct because people are walking off because they're standing in line for so long. They're just taking their stuff and leaving.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
is she supposed to judge Yeah, so overall, it's not working.
Okay, any other questions on board subcommittee? Then one, facilities improvement.
So we put out our RFQ, we got two back, two applicants back for the CMAR. Our next step is putting out the RFP to those two companies by state statute. We get to skip a step because we only had two. If you have four or more, you would take the packets from Wings and Icon and whoever else and go through them and narrow those down to at least three to interview. But by state law, you've got to interview both of them now to decide which one of those two you want to hire as your CMAR as we move forward with the project. In the packet, you have the draft proposal put together by Sarah Sipe. Basically, everything in yellow, we need to have some consensus on. So October 15th would be tomorrow. That would be where the RFP goes out if you guys so approve that date.
Are we gonna have to spend another $12,000?
No, this would all be part of your bond issue.
So we are spending another $12,000. Did we pay her
If-
12,500 or Wings?
If you pass a bond issue, then these guys get paid. If bond issue doesn't pass, they don't make anything.
So the only thing we paid
So that-
Deep Wings for was to give us a analysis of our building condition.
At some level, yes. Now, one of the things they told us as part of that, if they're hired as a CMAR, is that they would work those fees into the overall bond price for
And
their
that,
side.
and those fees are $12,000.
What they'll get paid for a bond issue is probably a lot more than $12,500.
What would that amount be approximately?
That's a good question. I don't know what that percentage is. And that's part of this RFP process is you interview them, they'll send their fee structures in. So you've got the date to send the RFP. The next thing is you've got to put in there an estimate of what you think this project's going to cost. Sarah has put in $12 million. It doesn't have to be that, but you've got to have a starting point so that these companies can then send into the state. If it's a $12 million project, our cost for 12 million, it's usually a percentage of the overall bond is what their fee structure is.
And what's that? What
So
is that?
it could be
3?
10%. It could, I mean, I don't know, but that's why we go through this
Because-
process.
Because 3% of 12 million is 360,000.
Mhm.
That sounds like a lot of money.
But they're overseeing the project. They're making sure the project gets done right. I mean, that's how this works. And you'll get that information through the RFP is what they're going to charge for that project.
I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves. I don't like these timelines.
So here's the problem. We can't do anything else until we have a CMAR and an architect on board to put together a plan. That is what we're doing right now is we're getting these people on board so that they can put together a plan so that we know what it's going to cost so that we can put a thing out on a ballot for the community to vote on. That is your process.
Because I'm not even sure what we're doing.
But that's what this process is for, is so that these people that we hire, they're part of their job is to have conversation with you as a board and the community. That's where they put together a committee. They come up with a project. This is what the community feels we need as a school district. Then they put together numbers. We then look at those numbers to say, well, that's too much. So we need to cut some things out of it. Or, really, we think we can spend some more. So what else can we put in that bond issue? They put together that final plan and then we put it out to the community to vote on. But that's why you're hiring. That's why you're putting these things in place. You've got an architect you've hired. Okay. CMAR is going to help the architect come up with costs for the plan. That they will all work together to put the plan together. We had them do the facility study, so we know what issues that we face, some things that we need to do and address. Okay, and we also know that we can't address every single one of those things because that would be way too much money. But the community needs to come together and decide what it is that we want to spend money on. And that's what these guys' job is, between the architect, the CMAR, they're gonna work with the community to put together a plan the community is willing to pass.
Because I've talked to several Western Plains board members, and I guess my holdup is if you go through the bond, you're never going to get Western Plains to do anything with this, ever, until that bond's paid. Because they're not gonna help us pay a bond.
But that's not how that works. I'm just telling you, by state statute, if we would decide to consolidate, they would, nobody outside of our district boundaries would pay for that bond.
I don't think they touch us though, thinking that they might.
But they wouldn't have, I mean, that's not how it works. You would vote for that. I mean, you could put it on a ballot that says, yes, you'll have to pay for this, and they wouldn't vote to approve it.
No, not at all.
But nobody does that. They would put it on a ballot to consolidate where that tax structure for that bond issue stays here. The problem is, if we don't spend some heavy dollars on our buildings, we're gonna send all of our kids to Western Plains anyway. That is my concern, because you have some issues that have to be fixed and addressed that we won't have capital money for, that if the boilers go down to high school and we can't have school in that building, all those kids are gonna go to Western Plains. I mean, well, we'll have to ship them up there. Or we'll have to ship them to Jetmore or Dighton or somewhere. I mean, and that's the problem you're facing, is you've got buildings that we need to do some work on so that we can use them for another 50 years.
I think P1 can keep them going for 10 years. That's what I think. I don't.
I mean, in the last 10 years, we spent $1.5 million putting Band-Aids on things.
Better than 12 million. Because I don't really want to talk about secure entrances. Waste
I
of
think
time.
those are some things that we can talk about later, but right now we have to just decide, right?
I mean,
Because I think like the secure entrances, like we've all talked about that,
Mhm.
that's something that we're all questioning because of where we are. But that's something based on, once they give us everything that we can say, line item, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. But right now, what is our thing? We just need to approve.
Yeah, basically, anything that's
For the next
highlighted,
step.
we need to have some consensus on that we're okay with those days, those nights. Basically, everything is okay in here except for what she put in, to me, what she put in for the interview day is October 30th, which is a Wednesday, and I know that doesn't work for most of you. So I think October 29th is a Tuesday, and I don't think there's anything on there. So do we change that to October 29th for our interview dates? And then we need to draw basically out of a hat who interviews first.
Let's do the new company first and then second.
You have to draw it out of, it has to be
Oh, it
random.
has to be drawn out of
Yeah,
the
it
hat.
has to be,
Oh, okay. So who has?
And we
that?
still have to interview these.
Yes.
Interview.
Yep.
I'm just clear.
Have we paid means anything yet?
The
12,000.
12,500.
That we
And
won't pay
As
unless
long as
they-
we continue to go with them, that doesn't change what we previously.
No,
I mean, everything that
no,
we've
so,
done still stands if we
Yes.
go with them.
yes.
I guess I'd like to, us as a board, decide what projects we think need to be done first. Just
We
for
talked about that, Tom,
talked
and
to the
and we
circles
had to
about that.
figure out what
I
the
think we did.
prices were. We're
Yeah.
not gonna figure out what the prices are until we pick a company and they come up with the thing.
And then the community might veto some, have different ideas. This 12 mil, if it comes under less. you can
It's-
change it.
Yes,
That's not
yeah,
set
there's,
in stone.
It's just
we
a
could, we could decide to spend $20 million.
Okay.
We could decide to spend $5 million. They, in the RFP, you have to have a dollar so they can say,
Okay.
at $12 million, our fees would be this. They send that to the State Department certifies it, so they can't change it. If they put in the RFP, this is what the fees
Give
would
them a
be,
number.
then they send it back. They can't come back 6 months from now and say, now we're gonna change our fee structure.
So what time, she said October, we're gonna change that to the 29th or 28th?
I can do either day.
But
But it's 6
we
P
have
or
to
7
decide
P.
that.
Yeah,
What date do you want to do it on?
Oh,
she is out of town that next week, that first week of November. So you're either doing it the week of the 28th, or you're basically doing it the second week of November.
What day is Monday? I don't have. it.
So Monday, the 28th, that is the day that we host our scholars.
Right,
Day.
I can't do that.
So Tuesday, right now, there is nothing on the schedule.
Okay, so the 29th.
The 29th, there's nothing on the schedule. The 31st, of course, is Halloween. It's also our last regular season football game.
Yeah.
And then the first is parent teacher conferences. So to me, the 29th, if we're doing it that week, is the.
I make a motion to have that
That
meeting
change.
on the Tuesday, the 29th of October.
Yes. For the 29th.
Okay.
Six, starting at
Second,
six.
sorry, I second that motion.
Yeah.
Six.
Yeah, I think it said six, the first interview at 6 p.m. Second one at 7. Okay.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second on that.
For the
Any
29th?
further discussion?
29.
All those in favor?
And all the rest of the highlighted stuff in there staying the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stays the same. All those
Okay.
opposed?
Right or left,
It's such a decision
this one.
for 6.
I have a question, you know, earlier when we interviewed
When's
the
it
companies,
first?
we
Wednesday
had,
is first. Okay.
we had some community members there. Is this just gonna be board, or will we invite this same community members?
So basically, what we decided at the last meeting was the board was gonna do this. Once you have these guys in place, then we'll put together a community committee with people, business owners and parents and a couple board members and some staff members on it.
Which is the
And,
list
and
we
that's,
sent already.
yes,
Some people.
yeah,
we
some
sent
of
lists
you
of some
sent me
people.
lists of possible names to reach out to and get them. And then whatever CMAR we hire and Sarah will work together to meet with them and start putting together a plan and dollars for those plans. And then we'll go from there.
Going on new business. 8.1, approve the audit.
So we need to do that 7 point.
Pardon?
Yeah, we need to, well,
Need what?
we probably need a motion to approve that special meeting on the 29th also,
I
separate
make a
from.
motion that we approve the meeting on the 29th, Tuesday at 6 o'clock with Ween's going first.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Is that what you're asking about, Lori? Was that what-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are the two things then that some of those action.
7-11, I think, was a non-issue there, since there was just the 2 companies, right?
Well, yeah, that's what you did
But
with,
that's
Oh,
what
that's what
that
it
is.
yes, that was the first
Oh,
thing you did. So we'll get that to Sarah with that change on the 29th for the 29th, and she'll get those sent out tomorrow.
Good to go, entertain a motion to approve the audit.
So move.
Second,
Motion second, all those in favor? 8.2, Model Schools Conference.
If funds are available towards the end of the school year, I'd just like permission to send up 5 staff members to the Model Schools Conference like we've done the last several.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve model schools conference in June.
What 5 staff members are going?
I don't have that yet. We'll send that out once we get a little bit closer. Anybody that's interested, if I've got more than 5 that want to go, then we'll figure out a way to decide who gets to go.
Second,
Motion is second, all those in favor? 8.3,
So these are just updates to forms to make sure we're covering ourselves and we're following state guidelines and everything else. The forms just spell out what we're doing and then sign offs for everybody that's involved so that we are covered.
So is the Narcan administration becoming like, in the schools are having to do a lot?
I don't know. I don't know of any schools that have administered it.
Okay.
We
Well,
have
I
it
thought all
available.
already had
We
it.
have staff members that have been trained to give it. My concern would be more along the lines of somebody on the playground picks up something, puts it in their mouth, not knowing what it is, and there's an issue, not necessarily kids bring drugs to school and needing it.
I saw these reforms for parents to sign.
So there's authorization for self-medication is parent and student to sign, along with Danielle, authorization for medication, we parent, student, and Danielle to sign off on. Medication administration delegation, that is for staff to sign off on after they've been trained, specifically like for Narcan or any of our kids that may need an EpiPen or something like that. Basically, it's paperwork saying that we've trained you. If you do it wrong, it's on you, not on us, because we trained you. It's basically everything in here is to cover us.
On the medical one where to collect COVID testing, and flu testing, should there be something on there? Because I'm assuming that all parents are gonna feel like they have to sign it and turn it back in, maybe not. But is there some place on there where they can say, I do not authorize this, or
We
just
only-
don't turn it in?
We only give that if we have a situation where we come, so your kid is sick, we have this option available if you like it.
Okay,
We can test, here's the form to sign. And then on the form, it says, if you do sign this, we will get verbal consent every time. Just because you sign it doesn't mean we're gonna shove a swab up your kid's nose. But yeah, the only reason that form comes out is
when
if
you need it.
we've had a conversation with the parent and the parent said, yes, why don't you test them? Okay, sign this.
Okay.
I need to approve the medical forms.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor? Thank you. Page 4, junior high cheer uniforms.
She just texted a little bit ago because she was gonna come, but she's within $400 now of her goal. So she's just mostly bringing it up for discussion, mainly, I guess, the second part, or maybe to vote on maybe next time, but curious about sixth graders joining. She does think she's gonna have enough funds if they choose to do uniforms. Being first year cheer coach, I also don't think she knows how to use the cheer funds. And so she was gonna bring that up too, but she's close to the goal for this. It's not really as much for the donation part as it is about potentially letting sixth graders join cheer. And I know that's a sore subject. So just to have everybody be aware, I guess. She is curious about that for next year.
So if we're buying uniforms, why do we not buy for junior high? Like, is that something that we've never done, or what's the history?
Up until this year, we've never bought uniforms or any cheerleading uniforms. You
Right,
guys decided
right.
to do high school. My opinion on buying cheer uniforms has not changed and it won't change based off of my experience with cheer teams. Cheer uniforms are extremely expensive. They
Or
have,
do they have to be?
Well, this is gonna be the question, and we've never had tryouts to junior high level. It's just kind of been, if you want to do it, you can do it. So we had 7 of them sign up here in August to do it this year. I have had other girls ask if they could join cheer here for the winter season, basketball season. Now,
The
so
one
where
thing
did
to
you
note,
do?
you
I
guys
mean, if
don't
you're
know,
buying uniform, to me, you gotta cap it, and then you're gonna have to do tryouts.
they're currently
going
wearing
forward.
mismatched uniforms, like the 7 of them do not have on matching uniforms. They do not have on uniform tops. They have on white t-shirts that are already starting to see through from being washed, because I don't think she knew going into it that she wasn't gonna have cheer uniforms provided that fit and were a quantity enough for the 7 girls that she had. And so what they're wearing now is not in good shape.
did they buy t-shirts this year? Were those t-shirts that were also with like the?
She made, I think she bought the white
Okay.
t-shirts, and then I don't know, if she put
and she
the
bought
design on
sweater.
there
Okay,
or had
like with the
yeah,
cricket or
Morgan
something.
or somebody, it's starting to come off, I can tell you that, like from them being washed. And to compare, I think one of the things you guys have to consider with cheer uniforms, whether you're for buying them or against buying them, they're worn for more than one season. Football uniform is just worn for football season. Volleyball is only for volleyball. They're worn for multiple seasons. So if you look at cost per wear for the price of uniform, they're not any more expensive than any other uniform that we're purchasing.
And this goal was for 10, so I don't know if that's what she's considering her cap, but she said that would give her a little extra if they had more girls who wanted to do it next year. in the years to
I mean,
come.
I don't,
I
like I
don't
say,
know.
the only one that, in my time here, that we've ever ran tryouts for is the high school. And that was, I guess, early on in my tenure, the last 8 years, I don't think we've had to have tryouts because we haven't had more than 6 or 8, maybe 9. One year we maybe went with 9 to start off with, and it kind of fixed itself. I think somebody removed himself before the season really even got going. So I, junior high wise, it's been, we went a year or 2 with no cheerleaders,
Yeah.
no junior high cheerleaders. Didn't have any. Nobody
Mhm.
wanted to do it. I don't know if it was, 1 year was a lack of finding a sponsor. I'm not sure if that was their situation. So I mean, she's done a good job. I mean, it's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
She does.
I mean,
is
she does.
doing a very good job.
kudos to her for getting the interest
And I think this
built up.
fundraiser's only been going on this week too, maybe.
They're
They've already
done with it
raised,
tomorrow.
yeah, and it ends
Tomorrow's the
tomorrow,
last
but she's
day.
hoping they get really close to it, but they've raised quite a bit of money in that.
Well, I think we need to pay something of it, but I don't know what. I mean, and I
And we'll
think,
know.
I think too, we need to have in writing, like, if a special uniform is bought for you specifically, that if you quit, then you cover the cost of that uniform. Because I don't think that as a board, we should have paid for that last one. I think there should have been some consequence for buying that, because it'll never be worn now.
And I agree. And that's one of my
Never,
concerns with
probably, yeah.
cheerleading is it does have a tendency to be hit
High
and
school
miss.
male uniform that we
you
bought
know,
this summer.
Right now, we've got really good and involved sponsors, and they're doing a great job. Cheerleader sponsors don't necessarily stick around a long time. Like Tom said, I know 2 years ago we had one junior high cheerleader. I'm not against cheerleading. It's I at the junior high level, I've limited numbers, and we've had to have tryouts, and that caused all sorts of headaches. We've left it unlimited, and we did a nice pair of shorts and a t-shirt. I had 40 cheerleaders, and that was a whole different level of headache. So there is no win-win in this conversation. You're gonna get hit somewhere. My concern, you're right, as far as how often that particular uniform gets worn compared to a football or basketball uniform, it equals out in cost more than likely. But that's why they're so expensive, is because they have to stand up to a lot more, even to a football uniform that's getting smashed up against. My bigger concern with cheerleading uniforms is they have a tendency to be fitted so much to an individual kid that we buy 10, and next year you've got 10 girls out, and you've got 2 or 3 that don't have one that fits. And now you're spending another $300 or $400 on a uniform to get them in. And now you've got 13, 14 uniforms, and several that won't ever get worn again. It has never worked out the same as a typical sports uniform, in my experience. That is my concern. Now, where I've always been involved with this is the kids cheer, they raise funds, they buy the uniforms, they wear them for the 2 years or the 4 years, and they get to take that uniform. It's theirs, they pay for it. At the high school level, 4 years of cheer, you get to keep your uniforms. It's a keepsake and those type of things. I don't know if the sentimentality of it is still there or not.
How many schools pay for cheer uniforms versus don't pay for cheer uniforms? Like I asked around a little bit. I know that lacrosse pays for not one, but 2 junior high
Western
uniforms.
Plains.
And they have a seamstress that alters them every year. So that they fit.
I couldn't answer that question. And we could find out to see. I can send an email out to see what other school districts are doing.
I would be curious to know that.
We can, if you can find out some information, we can discuss it again.
And she'll have a total number too, like whatever they raised after tomorrow.
But I think if they've raised the money, they could buy the uniforms now and wear them
Yeah.
for basketball.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they have to wait until next year to purchase them.
Yeah.
If they've raised the money for it, then
Yeah.
let them go ahead and purchase the uniforms.
Would be my opinion, if they raise the money, buy the uniforms and then they can keep the uniforms because they
They
raise the
raise
money.
it, yeah.
That would be my opinion.
But I would say the high school ones that we bought, they don't.
I would agree with that.
Mhm.
And
I think maybe we
wouldn't have a
need to
problem
have-
with this making a spiff as a board.
I think we
help
need
a
to
little
maybe
bit.
have some
Yeah.
sort of an idea how often we're gonna let cheer uniforms change.
Well, and the high school ones I put on our rotation, so it's every 6 years. Like we would do for any other uniform.
For
purchase.
junior high, are they thinking just like a spirit shirt and black shorts or something like that, or a
I
full
think
blown
she's
uniform?
It's a
Full,
uniform.
full
There-
blown.
The other thing that I
It's like
paid some
these.
attention to is there's not a school in our league that does not wear a proper cheer uniform in junior high. So if
She
we
puts
did
that
go to
in
the
the letter. too.
Shirt,
can
t-shirt
swipe
and
it
shorts,
from
we would be the only ones in the league that had cheerleaders dressed like that. Not that there's anything wrong with having cheerleaders dressed like that, but we would be the only ones.
So we discussed moving on, is that
Yes.
where we are? Come back to it maybe next month. 8.5 superintendent evaluation.
You have the form in front of you. Typically, you fill it out, give it to Russell next board meeting, and then January board meeting or December board meeting.
They're going back to December. And then
Yes.
they're in November or December, they do
That they can,
before January. They give them back to
yeah,
him.
This is due by end of year.
Or next.
Right.
Board meeting or the December.
Okay.
Whenever they decide to do
and then the eval in January.
it, you
No,
Before
December. December.
know, because
So,
your contract
he-
is in January.
That's where I was trying to
So
go.
there's an option there.
So basically, you need to tell them when you want that back so that you can compile it.
I mean, an
For
option
the
to
December.
discuss this November or December. Or what?
I say technically, yeah, you could discuss it anytime you want.
So I say we have them turned in by November meeting or at the November meeting and then it's discussed at the December meeting.
I like that.
Is that your last
Have
meeting?
these, yeah. If
Might
you'd
be his
have
last
these,
big move.
you'd have these filled out and turned in to me by the next board meeting, not October 29th, but the November board meeting. Then we will discuss them all the compiled, and we'll discuss them in December. Okay? 8.6, out of district student.
I missed this in September. Have a student who enrolled part-time, a homeschool student here in the district, did not realize at the time the address was Brownell, it's an out-of-district student, so we need to have an approval of an out-of-district student. She comes for one period of the day. She comes to our EMT class first hour of the day, homeschool student, and good student, good family, everything like that. Casey Gross is her name. She's a senior, like I say, taking EMT. That's the .2 on that FTE that I was telling you about on the Russell Girl report, but their address is Brownell, and I didn't catch their address when we did the enrollment back, and so it was after September board meeting, so
I would
she's
approve,
been attending since early September, first of
Just
September.
because it's Brownell, it's out of district, because they're not that far off the K-96. Okay,
I would approve that student.
Second?
motion to approve and second for Casey Gross, all those in favor. 8.7, executive session on student, 20 minutes. Or motion,
I make a motion.
Second?
motion second, all those in favor.
Yeah. It's my hand. Down there for now. Right.
Show my ignorance. Who is the junior cheer coach?
Jerica Mitchell. She works at the daycare at the hospital.
She has a student or just someone who's interested?
I don't think she has one.
Your own time if you don't want to become. Extend for 5 minutes, Susie.
Entertain a motion for student matter.
We already took our.
You already did?
Just for-
I don't think we'll be off on the board in 5 minutes from here. And we had to leave.
Sorry, Russell, gotta be honest. Five, five more minutes.
Second,
I vote from here. No, we're in the room, your vote doesn't count.
Well, 5 minutes, you're way into an hour. I'm out here.
They used to do 3 minutes.
That's not even long enough to start a.
Exactly. I was like, this is dumb.
So if they ask for 10 and they're done discussing in 5, can they come out early?
No.
They have to stay for the 10.
Because like, especially since we're online,
So that people
so people know I have 10 minutes
to go to the,
and then, yeah.
to run over and grab.
Or
the
even,
first
even now, like if you left and came back, you know, you have 20
trip. Right, I
minutes.
can set my timer and.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would make sense to ask for the smallest amount of time people.
But yeah, when I first started, they did 3 minutes. And they can't discuss, when they go into exec, they have to discuss what they go in for. So if they go in for students, they can't move on into personnel. They have to finish up a student and then do another one for personnel.
So we ask for 10 and only use 5. You can't make a use of your other 5 minutes.
Nope. And then just like that, Tom doesn't even come in. I think we really should be. Before when they were all in here, I was the one that would come back and forth. Right. And then they were all in here. So.
I remember coming to some. With that one. Yeah, it's the same way I think it's really.
Yep.
Do executive session online. It's good.
What?
You could just do executive session online.
Yeah.
We'll leave.
Whoopsie.
Overall, I think we're fine.
Is Keegan in first grade?
Second.
So you didn't have him last year, did you? You did have him last year.
A long discussion over whether.
Yeah.
The problems in kindergarten. How to straighten that out.
Yeah.
Before we go off to school.
What better person to do it than mom?
He and I have been open. I've had to go to school a few days, but
Yes.
he figured out like how to do the tantrums with it. And I've talked to Giselle about this year. And I think it's pretty.
Yeah.
And the problem was she had me in kindergarten.
Oh, yeah.
And I was concerned that if you remember her then he would try to send me each of college. Yeah.
Well, and he's a little
He's
older.
older, right? He's figuring out that his behavior was very mimicking. It's cute and so there's not as many of those kids to copy.
Yeah.
Because the other kids are getting better behaved.
Yeah.
He's starting to realize.
Good.
Copy of this.
Yeah. Good.
So his sisters are starting to realize that it's not laughing at him.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. It might be funny when they're younger, but it's not when they get older.
And that's the hard part because some of that is kind of, let's see that, whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't want it to be.
Yeah.
Kind of not laugh.
Yeah. Absolutely. It all needed to be in here to make a motion. It all needed to be back in here to make.
Make a motion, we go to executive session for personnel for 20 minutes.
Second.
All those.
Thank you. Right.
Okay, as far as 8.9 and hiring. Avery Gatzmeyer.
That is Zoe Sibe's boyfriend. He comes from a coaching and teaching background. His dad was a long-term coach in
Valley,
Heights.
up there in northeast Kansas.
He was, but he is a transplant to the community.
Not working for the school district otherwise.
No, I think he's working at the co-op in Bazine. But talking to them, they knew when they hired him that this was a possibility and that they are going to work with this individual to make coaching work.
What's the plan here?
So
About-
Mara is doing the teacher aid stuff. So she's taking care of all the teacher aides that we have, the student teacher aides. So she's eating up a portion of her planned time providing that.
You got it. Brain's not looking this way. Is that our
So our,
substitute teaching teachers?
no, our high school
Oh, they.
kids,
students.
yeah, our high school kids that come over to the elementary school, or like there's one that is in FFA shop, maybe.
What's that?
It's a high school kids that basically come over to the elementary school and one of their class periods. Kids that are interested in become teachers. But she oversees that program. But she's also got a full schedule on top of that, so.
Any questions or motion?
We need to approve that.
Yes,
I move to approve a half plan
For both of them, maybe, yeah. We run them both together.
8, 9, A, and B.
I did
Unless you think there's a
approve.
reason.
So I would move to make a motion to hire high school boys basketball assistant Avery Gatzenmeyer and approve a half plan period for Mara Hamel.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Donations for preschool playground.
So
Just a general, so we don't have to bring them to.
So we've got a couple parents working on putting together donations to upgrade the preschool playground and the playground. They're kind of taking it on, they're working on grants and those type of things. We don't necessarily have a plan, so I've encouraged those two that are kind of working on it to be a part of our facilities improvement as we look at the different things. We've talked about the playgrounds before. What exactly do we want to do? Is there a way for us to fund that without being a part of a bond issue? And that's kind of what they're working on. So if you guys are kind of okay with us starting to gather funds and talk to people, we put a letter out. I've gotten some questions from a couple of potential bigger donors that want to see a plan before they're willing to donate. But I think there's a good chance we could get a good portion of our playground upgrades done and paid for through donations and grants.
So does this need to be changed to approve donations to both playgrounds, not just the preschool playground?
I would say just playground, yes.
So take out the preschool. Playground. Say that fast twice.
So was that a motion, Judy?
Oh, I make a motion, sorry, that we approve donations for the playground.
I was just gonna second it. if
In
it
a
was.
second. All those in favor? Insurance quotes.
open to this page, I think it's like page 10 in there. As we've talked in the past, um, insurance premiums are skyrocketing. As I shared in the past, EMC, I think, is trying very hard to get out of the school insurance business. You've got what we paid last year. Our current policy runs from November 1 to November 1. So our current policy is up November 1st. What we paid last year was $97,199. EMC's quote for this next year of coverage is $140,000. The only other place in the state of Kansas right now for schools to get insurance is the KICS program. It was previously called Kermit. It is a pool. It is $165,000. Now, you can look through the packet. The main coverages are pretty similar. Concerns I have with EMC. They are purposely finding ways to drop schools. They informed Ellenwood, if you don't rinse their roofs. Then they came up with the next thing, if you don't do this, then we're not covering you. So basically, EMC just dropped Ellenwood, and Ellenwood got into the KICS program. St. John was in a very similar situation, and I think they got into the KICS program last year. I sat down with both of those superintendents Saturday at the volleyball. We talking to them, and they actually brought it up. And then we get this today, basically, showing us what our options are coming up November 1st. The deductibles, KICS probably pays for itself just in deductibles, because the deductible through EMC for wind and hail it's 1%, right? 75,000,
Per building.
but it's per building. So if we have a hailstorm come through and it wrecks all the roofs, you're going to shell out $500,000 in premiums to fix those roofs, because it's each roof you're paying that $75,000 on. So you got to look at that. The deductible for the KICS program is $50,000 per occurrence. So if you have a storm come through, it's $50,000. We fix all the roofs. So you've got that issue to deal with. I truly believe one of the things that you've got to take consideration, because this is a pool much like our health insurance pool, there is kind of a buy-in, and they are trying to build this program. So the way the pool works is you pool your money, you pool your resources, you build up a contingency fund to help lower premiums from your underwriters. So that 59,711, that variable cost, I think goes down after several years. So there's a very good chance that 165 actually gets below EMC's fees anyway. The other thing is the KICS likes to run fiscal year, so January 1 through January 1. So what we'd actually pay for KICS until January 1 is $110,000. And then we'd do another policy upgrade January 1 and get on their schedule for January 1 to January 1. This is a lot of money. Insurance, as of November 1, you don't have insurance unless we approve policy. Like I said, in the state of Kansas, these are your only choices right now. No one else will insure schools. I don't think EMC will insure schools in the next 2 or 3 years in the state of Kansas. My understanding is they already dropped the state of Oklahoma. One of my concerns with KICS is if you don't join them now, they may not let you join later. And then you're self-insured. And we don't have the funds to do that. You run into a situation like Atwood had here a couple years ago, had a couple kids break in, set their gym on fire. What they had for insurance coverage was not enough to make repairs. So then they had to work on passing a bond issue to help rebuild their gym from damage because they weren't properly insured. They've spent the last couple of years playing all their ball games and volleyball and basketball games in Colby and Oberlin and St. Francis. You know, we want to make sure we're properly insured. We've also got to be fiscally responsible. My opinion of Iron Insurance, who would be our local provider for either one of these, is it's probably time for us to drop EMC and get into kicks, even though it's going to cost us potentially.
They're giving us a lot more coverage though.
There is,
if you
and,
look.
and one of the things I don't like about kicks, because it's a pool, is this is the coverage. There is no negotiating. Let's not have that coverage. So that is one of the problems with kicks, is because it's a pool. Everybody's got the same coverage across all these schools. And how many? There's
150 schools.
right now. There's 150 that have moved to this pool. You know, so there's a lot more coverage. The deductibles are better through kicks. You are looking at a $15,000 difference in those two costs. But with the deductible difference, I think it probably ends up paying for itself. And I really think over time, that variable cost differentiator starts to go down, and you probably make that money back. My question to you, you need more information? We really need to have an approval of one of these two so that we have insurance after November 1st.
Is this kicks program protected? Like, it's not somebody just taking out
No,
the
they
money from
started
120
8 years
schools.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's run through KSAB. KSAB oversees it. You know, so you and whatever there. It basically the same group that oversees our workman's comp stuff are basically the provider for this. They work through, I believe, Conradi Insurance Group as the overall underwriter. And then you have local agencies like Iron that acts as your local agent as part of that. I believe when we had kicks, Kermit at the time quote us last year, it was 187, 183,000. So they've come down already. And a lot of it's just like our health insurance. The bigger your group, the idea is you're pooling your resources, you're able to bring down those premium costs.
So the other question is, you said that if we join now, we'd be charged that 111,
Yeah, and you wouldn't be charged 165,
but
you'd be
that would be
charged,
just for November and December, so it's not prorated?
no, through July 1.
Oh, I thought you said
Yes,
January 1.
no, July
Didn't
1.
you say January 1?
Fiscal year, July 1 to July 1.
Yeah, you said
I was
January
talking
1.
fast.
Okay, that's all right, because I was like, that's only 2 months, that doesn't
Yeah,
seem to
no.
be very prorated. Okay.
No, July 1. So that would take us through basically the end of this school year, and then we'd start July 1, which makes a lot more sense for us. Because as we're doing budget and stuff, we know then, instead of trying to figure out, well, where are we gonna come up with another
So
$60,000?
then on the front where it says the proposal is from 11 to 11, it's not going to be.
No, that would be EMCs. If you want the EMCs, it'd be 11 to 11.
Okay.
If you go with kicks, it would be 11 to 7. Yes.
Any other questions or a motion?
Are you allowed to raise your deductibles on your vehicles?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That's all below deductible for paying a high premium. That's,
Mhm.
in my world.
We can ask that question, and if we could raise that and drop that premium a little bit, we could do that. And if we want to make a motion along those lines, that we work with them to try to get that premium down lower, then we will have to have another meeting before November 1st to put insurance in place.
You don't have any funky, like, if you do so many claims, your premium jumps up, you're going up so many, and they'll drop you.
No,
And they cannot drop us.
once you're in the pool, you're in there. That's the problem, some of the concerns with the pool is if you don't get in now, they don't necessarily have to let you in. Once you're in, they can't kick you out. What was the other thing that I,
You're in it and leave it.
yeah,
It's hard to get back
yeah.
in.
So if you do get in the pool and you decide this isn't working for us, you go someplace else, they probably won't let you back in. I have had conversations with a couple other property casual providers that do private residencies and stuff like that. Those companies won't touch schools.
I motioned to go with kicks,
Second,
but with the amendment of, I mean, I would personally rather see the highest deductible available for the vehicle.
and I noticed that Gator, they value it at 22,000.
What a new Gator costs.
Yeah, but it's not
That
new.
one isn't.
But
yeah,
that's
I
if
mean,
it's total, right?
I just,
Or replacement?
yeah, that's replacement cost.
A motion and a second. Any other thoughts or discussion? All those in favor? Page 12, approve patron access to Austin House. Motion.
Is he a resident?
He's an employee at BTI.
So moved.
Motion second, all those in favor? Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all.